Hi, it's me, number 468. In 1929, Spanish archaeologist Leopoldo Torres was excavating an ancient site in southern Spain when his team uncovered a large number of gold coins that were unlike any other treasure they had found before. Each coin featured a series of parallel ridges or wreaths around its edge. The coins dated back to the 6th century BC and all came from a single deposit buried under what once was the floor of a house. This discovery would change everything Torres thought he knew about ancient history. And today we are going to talk about why. But first, if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an exciting episode. Thanks for your support. So the discovery of these unique gold coins was extremely exciting to archaeologists because they belonged to a culture that had been lost to time, at least officially. The realm of Tartessos is believed to have been one of the wealthiest societies during the Bronze Age, known for their wealth, their culture, and their mastery of seafaring. But contrary to the advanced Minoan civilization in Crete or the Mycenaeans in Greece, little to nothing had ever been recovered from this society. Over the centuries, there have been a handful of finds in southern Spain that seem to hint at the existence of the Tartessos society, but none of the sites had produced much more than a few broken pieces of pottery or some random weapons. Some scholars even doubted that the Tartessos people had ever existed at all, and instead argued that they were just a figment of the Greeks' imagination. They were supposedly so wealthy that they could afford to buy entire cities in Greece, and experts claimed that they must have done so, because otherwise, how could a non-Greek civilization be so wealthy? Then in 1837, the Greek coin was discovered by a British consul named William Hamilton, who sent it to London, where it can still be seen today. Of course, the existence of this coin doesn't prove that Tartessos existed because anyone could have dropped it there over the past 4,000 years. But it does show us that someone from Tarsus visited Greece, which means that Tarsus must have existed. The trouble is, nobody could figure out where. What the new discovery of these gold coins did was confirm that the Tartessi had indeed existed, and it gave archaeologists a possible location for their great city. The coins were discovered at a site called La Almaloya, which was occupied from the 7th century BC until the 1st century AD. During the 6th century BC, the population had reached around 8,000 people. But shortly after the destruction of the city in 515 BC, the settlement was completely abandoned. The fact that these two events happened so close together suggested that the people of Tartessos had destroyed their own city before abandoning it. But why would they do such a thing? To answer that question, Torres needed to uncover more evidence of their mysterious culture. As you might have noticed, the coins he discovered didn't actually feature any recognizable designs or figures. Instead, each coin simply had these strange ridges. What Torres didn't know was that these ridges were part of a secret code. By rotating the coin a certain way, the ridges turned into something else. It was like one of those magic tricks, where a magician shows you a blank card and asks you to pick a number between 1 and 10. Then, after you tell them your number, they revealed that the card actually said whatever number you picked, except instead of numbers, the card showed images of different gods and symbols related to Tartessos. In total, there were 16 different images on the coin, including several animals, a fishhook, an axe, a horse, and a bull. The most interesting symbol for archaeologists was the ring. It resembled a stylized sun with 8 pointed rays extending outward. The reason why this symbol stood out was because it also appeared on another piece of Tartessian art, a bronze pendant found near the city of Carmona in 1920. The pendant featured two men wearing pointed hats and holding a staff. Between them was a long rod with a laurel wreath on each end. The scene depicted here appears to be a ritualistic ceremony of some kind, but what it means is unknown. This symbol was also found on a statue of Apollo that was unearthed outside the ancient Greek city of Thebes. According to Greek mythology, Apollo stole a magical cow from Admetus, king of Thessaly. Admetus pursued him relentlessly until Apollo turned into a dolphin and swam away. The god then sacrificed the cow, lit a fire, and hung the hide on a nearby tree to dry. When Admetus approached the fire to claim his prize, Apollo transformed the branches into laurel trees and shot Admetus with arrows. The only way for Admetus to survive was to join Apollo as his companion. So he cut off his genitals and flung them away, becoming the first martyr of the homosexual cause. It's not exactly clear how Tartessian culture adapted this Greek myth, but both cultures seem to share the same understanding of the laurel ring as a symbol of Apollo, and that is important because there is another site nearby connected to the god. Deep in the Sierra de las Nieves mountains is a place called the Ermita de los Martires, a small chapel built over the remains of a much older temple. Archaeologists believe that this building may have been dedicated to Apollo, though no excavations have ever been carried out here. If this theory is correct, then we may have found a link between the Greeks and the Tartessians. We know from other archaeological evidence that the Tartessians kept cattle and horses, and it's very likely they would have worshipped a god associated with those animals. We also know that the Greeks were familiar with this area because they colonized the nearby city of Gadief, modern-day Cadiz. If the Tartessians did worship Apollo, then it's very likely the Greeks would have adopted their religious practices. This would explain the presence of the laurel ring symbol on coins and other pieces of Tartessian art, but it still doesn't tell us where their great city was. The lack of substantial archaeological evidence has allowed many theories to pop up over the years. According to one popular theory, the capital of Tartessos was submerged beneath the Mediterranean Sea. This idea was proposed by French oceanographer François de Pouveret and is based on a bronze statuette depicting a helmeted warrior that appears to be holding a trident. Since tridents were typically used by sailors, de Pouveret assumed that the statue represented a sailor god. He also believed that the abandoned city was submerged beneath the sea, citing the lack of archaeological evidence as proof. De Pouveret felt so confident in his theory that he organized expeditions to find the lost city in the sea. But despite scouring the ocean floor, nothing was ever found. There is another archaeological site nearby called La Caleta, which contains the ruins of a Bronze Age settlement. The people who lived here hunted nearby wild boars and may have fought battles with neighboring settlements. A fragment of a local vase found at La Caleta seems to depict a chariot being pulled by a team of oxen. Chariots weren't introduced to the region until the 6th century BC, which suggests that the vase dates back to that time period. The problem is that the Tartessians didn't live in this area. It was the Ossenses who did. The Tartessians were located further inland, and the closest archaeological evidence we have of them comes from La Maloya. The idea that the Tartessians destroyed their own city also makes no sense. There's no reason for them to destroy their homes unless they were forced to, but there was no invasion, no evidence of a siege or battle, and no reason for the Ossenses to attack them. The only thing that made sense was to go back to the Greek origins of the laurel ring. Torres wanted to see if the laurel ring symbol could lead him to the lost city of Tartessos. But to do that, he would need to sail across the Mediterranean to Greece. There, in the city of Delphi, stands the temple of Apollo. It was believed to have been the home of the god himself, and it was here that priests delivered prophecies to those who came to ask for guidance. When Torres visited the museum there, he saw a statue of Apollo holding a laurel branch. Could this be the connection he was looking for? When he returned to Spain, Torres continued his search for the lost city of Tartessos. He explored various caves throughout the countryside in hopes of finding artifacts. One day, his team discovered traces of metal inside a cave called El Argar. But when they excavated the site, they found no signs of human activity, only a stream filled with mercury. The following year, Torres went back to complete the excavation. His team uncovered a collection of gold ornaments that were unlike anything they had seen before. They called the site El Argar del Bronze, or the Bronze Age Hoard. None of the objects had any sort of decorative pattern, and the only recurring design was a series of concentric circles. These decorations were probably supposed to be worn as jewelry, although Torres couldn't figure out where. He believed that these ornaments may have been ceremonial in nature, possibly representing the sun. Other archaeologists disagree, believing instead that they were made for wrapping around the limbs of a horse or chariot. These ornaments date back to the 7th century BC, and we now know that this was the era of the Tartessian kingdom. It's possible that this was the lost city of Tartessos, but we will never know for sure. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. I would really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.